Hi, my name is Sasha Oliver Prolic. I am one of the maintainers of the prooph components, and today I'm gonna show you something about the new library FPP, which stands for Functional PHP Preprocessor and Immutable Data Type Generator, that I wrote during the last couple of weeks. And I want to show you some stuff on how it's useful and what it can do with you for you, and how this fits well into the prooph components. For this, I used the PHP Storm integration, which is here declared in the wiki of the repository. So that's github.com/prolic PROLIC/FPP, and you see here basically how this is being set up. So I assume if you want to try this yourself that you have done this already. Otherwise you can just generate here from your console, of course. Just push the latest changes, so that's it. So yeah, let's start with something very simple, just to give you an idea what this thing can do for you. Let's create small sample script here so you can see the problem. So this is our problem PHP, and we assume we have a function which takes a string with a first name and another string with his last name, and it returns, I don't know, another string, okay, like this. So with PHP 7 this is already pretty good, that we can expect here a string, and you cannot pass an integer here and so on, so that's already good. But there's still the problem that you could forget in which order to call the parameters, and you can give here the last name first and the first name as second argument, or you can put here accidentally a company name, because every string actually would work. So what we can do here is we can create a new data type for you. So let's declare a namespace foo, and we have a data type which is first name, and it's just a string. And we have another data type which is the last name, which is also a string. And then we can create another data type which is age, which is an integer. And now the file watcher is already running, and I have created this here. So we have a final class first name in the foo namespace, which gives us the values, same for last name and same for age. Type hints everywhere, strict types by default. So you can use this here now. So we put here use foo, namespace, so this is better. It's the last name, and then we have the age, as age. That's great, right? So you see already what this can do for you a little bit, and there are much more stuff that this can do for you. This is here only the very simplest stuff that you can think of, but we can use this and create a more complex data type. For example, person. A person is a thing that takes a string first name, string last name, an integer age. Whoops, what's wrong here? Oops, the constructor is missing. So that should be good. So we have our previous values here as before, because I didn't remove those, and we have new affine class person with first name, last name, age, type-ins everywhere, so we can create these nice things for us. Let's take this a step further. We can reuse the stuff that we have created here, right? No problem with that. So we have here now type-ins for our classes, return types. That's great. As you've seen, maybe we have we have a setter function with first name which returns a new instance, and the setters for last name and age are missing. I guess that's a bug in the library. I try to fix this as soon as this video here is recorded completely, but you'll get the point. So when you try this yourself, there should be 2 more setters generated, which actually I can do this here manually real quick. It should look like this. Yeah, and another one for the age. So yeah, annoying little bug, but no problem for this presentation here right now. Yes, so this is already some cool stuff that you can do here, but we have more. For example, we have an OR constructor. The best thing to see what this can do for you is we define a new data type color, and we say we want yellow or green or blue or red. And in this case we need to do a deriving enum. And what this deriving means I will show you in a second. So we have here our abstract class color, which has these values, final public function construct, so only those instances that are defined up here can be created. You can't just extend color and create another instance. That is not allowed. You can create a color from string which has an equal to string and so on. And we have these concrete implementations of color, and so we have a nice enum implementation available. And what we can do with this is, say, for example, we can create a function which expects a color and returns a string, and this works by returning color to string. And now get color name. I can use this new red, right? So this will actually output red. So you have seen an OR constructor here. What this deriving means I will come to a second, but we can use the OR constructor here as well. Let's say we have a boss, and the boss has of course also a first name, it has also a last name, but the boss has no age because we don't care. The boss is the boss, he doesn't have to provide us a last name, okay? So what we have now here, the class person is no more final, That's because the data type person is available. We have a person constructor, so usually we would make it final, but we have a boss and therefore it's not final. But whenever possible it will create final classes for you. So we have the usual first person here, and we have a boss which extends person and has its own first name, last name, but has no age. So that's very cool. Yeah, before we go into some more details, let's talk about these derivings that you've seen here on the enum example. A deriving is something, you can compare it like a PHP extends keyword, but the main difference is really you can extend multiple stuff, and actually this is just stuff you can more compare to traits, for example, that gets mixed into your object. There are some deriving rules. Here are all the derivings that are shipped with FPP. We have aggregate change, command, domain event, and query. So those are here for a prooph. You can generate those. I will come to this in a second. And other than that, we have enum equals from array from Scala, from string to array to Scala to string, and UUID. So I showed you what the enum already does for us. Let's take a look at the user ID, at the UUID, for example. So we just create a data user ID, which takes the constructor user ID, and we can derive from UUID. And here we go. We have a user ID generated, which under the hood takes the Ramsey UUID lib. It's now unqualified class names because I didn't install this dependency. Yeah, but it works. We can do stuff like user ID generate, or so this is here a user ID, or you can do user ID from string, and we have some value from the database. Yeah, you can do here toString, and you can compare it. Is it equals to another user ID that I just generated? So that's probably not the case. Yeah, so this is really nice, right? So you have 37 characters that you need to write in FPP, together with a namespace declaration of 14 characters. That makes 51. And compare this to the generated output. Yeah, that's 36 lines of code compared to 2 lines of code. So that's very, very efficient. You can create your code very, very fast, and it's safe, and you don't need to write any unit tests for it at all. That's awesome. So another deriving that we've saw here in the list is, for example, from array and from Scala, from string to array to Scala to string. So we can use those here, I think. For example, the first name we want to derive from string and to string. For the last name we want to do the same, and from the integer, well, that's an int, so we use Scala instead, otherwise it will probably crash. So then if we see what we've created here, we have a from string method, to string method on first name, same on last name, and on the age we have a from Scala and to Scala. And this is very, very useful later on. For example, if we want to derive here from toArray, right? Because if we use here objects, so let's go back here for a second and use this example, right? And we remove the boss because right now we don't need it. We have string first name last name toArray, no problem. We can also add the from array deriving, and it will even check if this is a string and if it's set and so on. And this is pretty good working, but we get a problem here as soon as we put our type hints here back. And for example, we don't derive here from the age, right? So if we do this, we get an error. It cannot build, it's a little small to read, right? We'll make it a little bit larger for you. Cannot build toArray for foo person, no deriving to build array or scalar for foo age giving. So first name and last name worked, it doesn't complain about this. And if we add this again, no problem. So we have our first name, and it created using the from string because it derives, and FPP knows how to create your first name instance if it's deriving something that FPP knows. So age from scalar does also work, and it can create the stuff. And the same for toArray. It knows how to use these toString and toScalar values. So we have here very small example. If I put this here together, we can even remove this empty line. We have 7 lines of code here, and it outputs already 287 lines of code. That's really, really awesome, and it saves so much time and is making less errors, because all this boilerplate you have to write yourself here is really prone to errors. At least for me, I'm really lazy and I get bored when I have to write stuff like this, and so I'm doing lots of small mistakes when I try to do something like this, when I create value objects and I have to create dozens and dozens of them. It gets really boring job, and then fatigue sets in and you do all these little mistakes that hurt you in the long run. Yeah, so that's basic, the most important stuff. But I want to show you something more today, and this is the prooph commands, or prooph messages. Let's start with something similar. We create a new file, prooph FPP, namespace is bar. We have foo already, so we take bar, and we have a new yeah, let's start with command. Alright, command create user, for example, and what it expects is, well, we have foo first name, we have foo last name, that is declared here already, right? Foo first name, foo last name, and so on. And we have foo age, and we are deriving command. So some of these rules is from the deriving rules is when you derive a command, you cannot derive anymore from array or toString and so on. Similar, if you derive from array, you cannot derive from Scala anymore. And if you're deriving from UUID, you cannot derive from toString anymore because the UUID contains already this information. Same for equals. Well, did I show you the equal stuff? No, I didn't. Let's do this here real quick, right? I derive from equals. That's a person. Deriving equals. Here we go. It's equals when the class is the same. First name is the same as the other ones. Oops. Last name is the same. So equals gets generated very quickly. I mean, this is lots of code to write and easy to make mistakes, but put here equals and you're done. And now we have our new stuff, the create user command. Again, I didn't install the dependencies, that's why we have some syntax problems here, like undefined class payload, and this property is not defined and so on, but it actually is defined once we have installed the prooph common package. And you see we have payload validation already. It checks for integer, it checks for all these things. We can also make the age, for example, optional. It's no problem. Actually it is. There's another bug. Sorry for that. It's still so new that some parts are not working. So let's do it like this, so it's easier to check. Yeah, you see the age is optional. Another problem here, we have to check if the age is null or not. So there are some small bugs in it because this is really brand new and not that stable yet. But if you run into any issues, just let me know, create an issue on GitHub, and I will try to take care of it as soon as possible. But this is working already. If this, when we want to access age, it checks if the payload is set and then creates the age from Scala, or it returns null. Yeah, so this is already pretty cool, and we have other stuff as well. So we used already the command, so let's go to the event. In this case we don't want to use the domain event because we are doing event sourcing, so we use the aggregate changed. User created is user created, first name, oops, last name, and again an optional age, and we derive from aggregate changed. And once we have this available, we have the user created event already and working. Again, here's the same bug. Null is not checked. But here for the domain event, we have these properties, and it checks if is set this first name is first name from string, this payload first name, return this first name, and it does all these things. Here for age it's working, it checks and checks the payload as well, so the is set, because it's an optional value, check is going on here, but it's not happening here. Yeah, small bugs. yeah, so that's it. I can show you also the query real quick. Data, come on. Data, let's say I want to find a user, and therefore I need the user ID, and I derive from query. Oh, for constructor forgotten. Maybe here also user ID. Let's put this here as well. Up. Here's the output. Yeah, as you see here, user ID is now also there. Use the user ID and the as aggregate ID. So that's the first parameter. That's the only thing that you have to know really about creating deriving from aggregate change. Is the first argument that you pass here will be used as the aggregate ID. So if you, that's the user ID in for our example, all the rest is usual payload. Yeah, this is actually wrong. It has to check the aggregate ID. Yeah, lots of small stuff that's not working. I'm sorry for that, but yeah, it's a new library, so when everything is new, there are some bugs. It's not that stable yet. But as you've seen here in this video, it's pretty cool. You can do really fast coding. Yeah, let's hear 7 lines of code in our demo file, and we have another 4 lines of code here in our prooph file, and 7 and 4 makes 11, and the output is already 525 lines of code. So we saved a lot of time. And this stuff is automatically generated. That's cool. One thing I want to mention maybe is there's the possibility for you to create custom derivings. But actually currently the system is a little bit hard to extend. It's possible, but it's a little hard. Here's the derivings map. So actually you can put here custom derivings inside, but then you have also to you would also have to change the replace method in order for your custom deriving to check for the replacement, and maybe your deriving is not compatible with the other ones. So it's a little bit complicated, but it's possible to create custom derivings. At least let's plan to support it as well. Here there are some more features coming. So as you've seen, I currently generated everything to this output PHP. That's the only way possible right now to have one single file. But maybe in the future we can read the composer JSON file and check for the auto loading and put the files according to PSR4, for example, into the corresponding folders and put the corresponding file names there automatically. So that's possible. Yeah. Oh, one more thing. The message name. When I see this here, it's same as the class name. Same here for user created, and you can change this actually. So what we've seen here, the find user. Okay, I do it only for one, it's the same for all of them. You can put here this and rename, and this is now our message name. You see, very cool feature. I like this a lot because it saves so much time. Yeah, as I said, maybe PSR4 stuff for output generation, reading from composer JSON is coming. I need to do some small bug fixes in order to fix the problems that you've seen here in this demo today. But I think it's great library. It will save at least myself a lot of time in the next big projects that I'm working on. Yeah, so one last thing before I forgot. There's one last thing that I need to show you, and this is the conditions. You can put additional conditions here on top of this. So let me take this here as an example, and we don't need these derivings here, but let's recreate our boss here real quick, okay? Because this is really useful. And now we want to have some conditions, and the condition begins with the keyword where, and now we create our conditions, and the thing is they react to constructor. So we have our first condition, which goes to the constructor person, and the condition is actually written in plain PHP code. So string length first name to string when this is the case, we say first name is too short, and we do the same for the last name. And we check the age as well. If age to Scala smaller than 18, then we say you're too young, sorry. Yeah, let's use here double quotes, it's maybe easier. So, and we have another condition for the boss, and what we expect here, it has no age, that's first name, last name, but this time we have other business rules. It has to have at least 5 characters. So just to give an example, right? Oops, this is missing. So what we have here in our first name, last name, age, blah blah blah. This is not working. So we have to escape this here. So our conditions are put in the constructor, and to Scala. So this is always ensured that our person is created correctly, and same for the boss. So this is really a nice feature. And what I like the most here, let's say the last name is the same as the first name as on the person, then we have this duplication here, it's the same as here, but it's too much to write here. So what we can do is remove this, and we use our default, and this is simply underscore. That's it. Oops. So as you see, it's still here. 3 checks, 2 checks, and I can also remove these ones so we have no conditions on the last name now, but still boss has these checks and person has these checks as well. This is really cool, and I hope you like this. Please stay tuned for more videos coming soon on this prooph YouTube channel. Please share this video, like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again. Yeah, have a nice weekend, and bye bye.